I'm pretty sure we're live now, Anil.
Yeah, we're live.
Nice. Hey, team. Hopefully you can hear us. If there's a way you could probably type it in the chat or something, just letting us know if you can hear us, react, send some cool emoji. Perfect. Thank you. That's great. We'll just give probably another minute or two just for everyone else to join. Nice emoji, to the moon. I like it. I mean, given how Ethereum's going for the last week, it's up about 25%, which is a good week for ETH. And then shall we kick off? Anil, can you hear me? I don't think Anil can hear me.
Akash, can you hear us? I think you're disconnected.
Anil, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think there's some connectivity issue here. Just give it like a minute and we'll get started right away. Right, so while we wait for Akash to join in, why don't I give you guys a quick brief about what is it we're going to build today? Actually, I think Akash has joined in.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Sorry about that, team. Just a little bit of technical difficulties.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we should get started. We can always go back and revisit certain portions that we've covered for new joinees.
Yeah. Cool. So just in terms of introduction, my name's Akash, and we also have Anil on the call. Anil is the CTO of Revise, and I'm a product owner at Revise. Today we're going to be covering quite a few things, but we're going to keep it as simple as we can. If there are any questions, just chuck it in the chat or through the questions panel. So I guess, where we're going to begin is we're going to go to the bare bones. We're going to talk first about what NFTs are and I guess what their use cases are and where we're going to see them going. And then we're going to follow that on by talking about what Revise is and where Revise fits into the grand scheme of NFTs. After that, Anil is going to run us through some code, and he's going to explain how Revise's code works to make upgradable NFTs. The case study we're going to be going through today is going to be of trading cards. So think about NBA trading cards, FIFA trading cards, and we're going to be using trading cards and upgrading them over time. So that's the nutshell or the agenda for today. in a nutshell. So I'll start off by first walking us through what NFTs are. In a very simple sense, an NFT is nothing but a digital collectible, but it's non-fungible, which that's the NF part of it, right? It's a non-fungible token. What that means is that it's unique by itself. So for example, there's only one Akash that exists. There's only one Anil that exists. We are non-fungible, but we're non-fungible tokens in real life. It's a very similar concept when it comes to NFTs. It's a digital collectible that's unique by itself. Now, traditionally, you might have seen NFTs, or you might have not seen NFTs, but you might have seen it as images, some apes, and videos, or memberships, yada yada. There's so many different things that NFTs can represent at this moment. But what really, I guess, what's really interesting about NFTs is it's really come along now because in Web 2 there was a lack of ownership, and people started going, hey, we want some ownership, and what's a digital equivalent of being able to provide that ownership? And that's where NFTs really started fitting into the picture. So for example, let's take the hot example of data, right? How many of you actually feel that your data is that you own your data, or is it an organization like Facebook that owns your data, right? It's those kind of problems that led to an ownership issue, which is, hey, I don't have ownership over my own data. And that's where NFTs started coming into the picture and went, okay, well, if we make your data as an NFT, you now own that NFT, you now own that data, and there's an exclusive way by which we can prove that you own that data through what is called a blockchain. So I guess that's my view of what NFTs are. Anil, what do you think NFTs are? How would you describe it? Anil, you're muted.
All the time. Now, I was saying, Akash, that you pretty much covered what the bare bones of an NFT is. It's basically just a digital collectible, right? If you play video games, you already understand how NFTs work. When you get a character or you get an item within the game, whether it's a gun, whether it's a potion, whether it's an upgrade, you end up getting these items that you then seemingly own within the ecosystem of the game. That's exactly what NFTs are. But instead of owning it within the game, you own it in real life. You own it like perpetually on a consensus network that is not governed by corporations. So that's fundamentally what an NFT is. Today, the form for an NFT is that of of art, of a digital collectible piece, like an image, like a video, like Akash said. But tomorrow it could be a lot more. Um, for instance, UK is now allowing you to serve people legal notices using NFTs. That's one example of where it can go. People have sold houses on OpenSea. OpenSea is just like eBay for NFTs. It's a marketplace, but people have tokenized the title and property documents of a house, and they sold it on OpenSea. All sorts of things that can happen on the extremes, but a lot happening in the middle as well. We can dive deeper into that later half of this webinar, but I think we should get started. Akash, do you want to brief them on what we're doing today?
Yeah. So I guess in a nutshell, what we're going to cover is, so we've described what an NFT is. We're going to now talk about what Revise is, and then we're going to let Anil do his code magic and show us how to create upgradable NFTs in the form of trading cards using Revise. So what is Revise? Well, we are a metadata platform to a certain degree, but we also provide the foundations to create dynamic NFTs and manage them. We actually make it really simple. You can make your own dynamic NFT in less than 50 lines of code, as you will see Anil do. And it's very straightforward. 50 might have been an exaggerated number, actually. So we basically provide the foundations to create a dynamic NFT. That's what Revise is all about. But we also do more than that, and we are exploring other products that we would love to bring to market. I'll now pass it on to Anil to continue to show the code and actually show how we can build using Revise.
Awesome. Is my screen visible? Is the font on the screen visible? If not, I can bump it up. Akash, is it visible for you?
Probably zoom in a little bit more if you can.
As the help?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's good.
Okay, awesome. So as far as the setup is concerned, it's just vanilla JavaScript. I just created a basic folder with a package.json file. The only library I've imported so far is the Revise SDK. So the only dependency here. And I've created a couple of different files. I've created an index.js file and a player upgrades.js file. What we're going to do is we're going to add our NFT, or the lingo here is we'll mint the NFT on Revise. And then we'll figure out how we can make upgrades to that NFT by connecting it to some data or the other. That data could come from a game, it could come from an API, it could come from a whole bunch of different sources. But before we get started, we got to go to Revise and grab ourselves an authentication token. Should be able to do that by visiting Revise. There's also a guide Akash has written that you can follow along. It's sort of detailed, has all the code snippets and a bunch of screenshots to make it easier. We'll be sharing the link in chat soon. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add a collection. So what this line of code here does is it's adding a collection to Revise, because all your NFTs belong to a collection. We're naming this My Dynamic Football Team. I'm going to give this a URI. Now this URI has to be unique because this is unique to your project. So I'm just going to say Anil Demos Live. The next thing we want to do is add the code to mint the NFT. So you got to call the add NFT function on Revise. You got to pass in basic parameters like the image, like the name, like the token ID, a description for your NFT. Now, apart from the token ID and the image, everything else is optional. Description and name doesn't have to be passed. You also don't have to pass any properties. But in this case, we are passing certain properties. We are setting the team for the player. We're setting his position. We're giving him the player level. We're adding a bunch of stats like offense, defense, stamina, etc. And last but not the least, we are passing the ID of the collection we just created. And at the end of all of this, I want to log the NFT that we just created. I'm just changing the URI to another unique one. So if we go ahead and run this file, what this should do is this should create the collection. It should add the NFT to that collection, and it should output the ID of that NFT, which is right here. So if I go back to the dashboard for Revise, we'll see all the NFTs you mint right here. Here's the one we just minted. So I'm just going to scroll down real quick. What you can observe here is all the properties we added for the NFT are available right here. The name we set and the image we use. Now we can use images, videos, 3D object files, and a bunch of other file formats, but the field is still called image. A couple more things to pay attention to is it says there's only one revision and it was updated only a few seconds ago because we just created it, right? So effectively, no other updates have occurred. A revision is just a version counter. So right now, as you can observe on the left and on the right hand side, there is just one version of the NFT created. We've made no updates to the NFT, right? This is the way it looks like in Genesis. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to copy the NFT ID. That's important, and we'll look at that later. I'm going to create another file where I've added a sample API function. It's a mock function. This is not real data. But what it does is an array of information where we set different player levels and we just use a random number generator to pick one of these random states. So every time this API is called, it will return a new state for our player. There is a helper function in the Revise SDK, which lets you set up an automation for your NFT. That's what we've set up here. Effectively, what we're doing is we're calling this helper function every 2 minutes. You can use different symbols over here. For instance, if you say 2s, it would react every 2 seconds. If you say 2h, it will react every 2 hours. So you can set when you want this to trigger. You can pass it a handler that it will listen to. Now, this can be a function call or it can just be a link to an API. It'll internally make an Axios request in order to fetch the data. And we start the automation. We got to pass it a callback. It can be async or regular. And whatever data gets returned from the API is passed to the callback. So what I'm doing right now is I'm fetching the NFT that we just created. I'm wrapping the NFT inside the revise object. And I'm going to start making some changes. So as the data comes in, as the new data comes in, we want to set the property on this NFT. We want to change the level property and set it to whatever we get next. Similarly, I can make a bunch of other changes as well. I can chain these commands together. So I can keep appending as many property changes as I want. So I'm changing the offense, defense, stamina, and skill. You could also change the image for the player. So depending on his player level, we're going to change the image between gold, bronze, silver. And once we're done calling all these property changes, we trigger the save function. What this does is this writes all of these updates to the NFT and persists it. So far it's been lazy. It's not actually upgraded the NFT. It's just tracking it locally in the code. The moment we call save, it's triggered online. I'm going to go ahead and log our entries so we can actually check what's going on. Just one small change I want to make here. The NFT ID here is probably inaccurate. So I'm going to go ahead and paste the newer one. What I want to now do is run this player upgrades file. And as you can see, it's changed the player's data. Now we've set this to listen to every 2 minutes. It'll probably take a while before the next update happens. I'm just going to quickly kill that. And let's make this 5 seconds. We want to trigger that again. Right now he's at a silver level. If we go back here and we reload the NFT in the dashboard, it shows you a bunch of revisions, right? So it's up to 4 revisions now, and it was updated a few seconds back. As you can see, the image has changed to silver. A bunch of his stats have changed as well. And on the right is the entire trail of how this NFT has evolved over time. It's going to go and kill this automation. And we'll reload this one last time to look at the final state. Okay, now it's in gold. That was the last state change that occurred. This is the update. It happened at around 6:19. Now, when we open this NFT on OpenSea, before we do that, we have to port this to Ethereum or Polygon or any one of the other L1, L2 blockchains. Once you do that, this can open up on OpenSea. But what you see on OpenSea is just the final state. I'm just going to take any random NFT here as an example. So the properties we see here are nothing but the final state of the NFT, which we get from this section. So how does this translate to OpenSea? Remember in the start of the webinar, we gave our collection a URI. This is extremely important and this is where it comes in handy. All we got to do is open that URI dot revise dot link, and this effectively tracks all our NFTs. So we gave our NFT a token ID of 1. So if I open this link here, it gives me all the information about my NFT. And it's this data that gets ultimately rendered on OpenSea. So any stats you see over here, the image that's being loaded here, all of that comes from this URL. And as you add more NFTs to your collection, all that will happen is the token ID will keep on incrementing. So now if I open 2, there won't be any data because I haven't added any, but effectively that's where it all is. And this URL itself is inserted into your smart contract as token URI. That's the parameter that you want to change. And the moment you do that, it will start reflecting on OpenSea.
That was really cool, Anil. Thanks for sharing, man. So basically, what we clearly saw over there was number one, what Revise is. You got to see what the Revise dashboard does. You got to see how the dashboard shows the revisions of your NFT. You also saw the underlying code and some functions around how to mint your NFT to Revise, and also how to dynamically update your NFT. Obviously, the way we've done it here, for an example's sake, was we actually hard coded some additional images and traits. But you can actually connect that through an API. You can connect it through some weather data. You can connect multiple different things to dynamically change your NFT. I also realized that when I gave a definition, when I explained what Revise is, I talked about dynamic NFTs. And you might go, wait, what the heck is a dynamic NFT? And why does it even matter? So I'll just take a moment to kind of explain that as well. So traditionally, the NFTs you see on OpenSea, most of them are static NFTs. So they are, the state you see them in is the state they're going to be in once they've been minted. So they can't really be changed. Whereas with the dynamic NFT, the underlying metadata, so each NFT has an underlying metadata, right? And dynamic NFTs, you can change the underlying metadata to get updated, which is exactly what Anil was doing. So he was updating the metadata, like attributes like attack, defense, and even attributes like the image itself was getting updated, hence making it dynamic. Now the use cases for dynamic NFTs are massive, right? You can think about gaming. Think about a sword that you got at level 1, but once you reach level 10, that sword is going to get updated. Now, the sword is a digital collectible that exists within a game, but to actually build in that functionality, you can use Revise to make that upgradable trait and upgradable NFT. So that's just one simple example, but and I hope that clarifies what a dynamic NFT is in comparison to a static NFT. Notice that we have a question. Let me just. So there's a question around how upgradable NFTs are different from dynamic NFTs. So actually, upgradable NFT. So a dynamic NFT. It's funny. I was just explaining this to a certain degree. So a dynamic NFT is, in a nutshell, is an NFT whose metadata is dynamic. Dynamic meaning it can change. Now, an upgradable NFT is, an upgrade is usually up, upgrade, it's not a downgrade. So an upgrade is nothing but a change at a metadata level. So technically, an upgradable NFT and a dynamic NFT are the same. Would you agree, Anil?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on that. There's another term in terms of smart contracts where the word upgradable comes into picture. Maybe Srinivas is talking about that. In that scenario, an upgradable NFT is one where you can change the contract that's underpinning this NFT. So whatever we showed you with Revise handles the off-chain part of the NFT. There is also an on-chain part of the NFT, which is the smart contract you write, right? You write it using Solidity and a bunch of other languages depending on the blockchain you're writing on. Now, within that contract itself, deploying that contract is typically full and final. Like once you deployed it, you can't change anything in it unless it's a function you've built. You can't redeploy the contract. But if you deploy that using a certain mechanism wherein you separate the functions of your application from the place where the data is held, then you are able to actually change the contract itself. In that case, that qualifies as an upgradable smart contract. So within the context of the NFTs, you could very well deploy an NFT contract using the upgradable sort of pattern. It's like it's a code pattern that you use, which lets you effectively ship upgrades to the NFT perpetually. So that's another context of what an upgradable NFT could mean. But that is just to add on-chain functions to your NFT. And a good example of that, actually that's an interesting point because NFT is just a spec, right? Akash, ultimately at the end of the day, ERC20 has its own spec. A bunch of other functionality on written on Ethereum using Solidity. They all have compliance. Like they all have a certain amount of functions because they want to make it compatible across multiple wallets or multiple tools. The reason NFTs work on OpenSea and your wallet like MetaMask or Rainbow or any other marketplace as well, like LooksRare for instance, is because they're all standardized. But these standards do change over time. So, for example, there is a standard proposal which lets you add subscription to your NFTs. Now, what happens if you want to adopt that standard? Because once you've written your contract, it can't be changed. That's a good example of when you would want an upgradable NFT, wherein you can redeploy the underlying contract itself. Srinivas, I hope that answers your question. If you want more clarification, either type it out in the comments or is there a way we can invite him to join us?
Yes, there should be. 1 second. Yeah, I can invite Srinivas to join us. It answers.
Okay, no, he says it answers it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Just feel free to pop it in the questions or chat, or if you'd like, or if your questions are quite long and complicated and you'd like to just have a chat with us, just let me know and I can bring you onto the stage. So we'll keep the questions rolling in the sense of feel free to just pop in any questions. But while we're here together, I thought we could discuss some of the topics that's happening in the NFT space right now, just as an open conversation. So feel free to join in if there's anything you want to contribute towards any of the conversations we're going to have, or if there's any topics you'd like us to cover, please just put it in the chat. So where should we start, Anil? What's
so
the
much
hot
going
buzz?
on?
Yeah.
Reddit's opening up a marketplace internally for you to like trade your NFTs, largely around the avatar for your Reddit profile, but probably a lot more. And that's super interesting because this kind of already exists, right? Like in many shapes and forms. Like when you, for instance, play Fortnite, you have the ability to buy your own look. Not everything's free. If there's a particular jacket you like or a particular look you like, you got to pay money to get it. Reddit's just doing that, but making that an NFT gives you the freedom to then take your bot avatar and move it elsewhere as well. And what's particularly interesting about someone like Reddit doing this is, well, technically, if you're just about any other website on the internet, you would have no qualms accepting an avatar that someone bought on Reddit because you know it's as legit as it gets. Right? Like some of the fear with buying artwork from an unknown collection on OpenSea is when it does become compatible with other websites, like who's going to allow you to use it or not. But if you buy something from Reddit, rest assured, most websites on the internet would allow you to use it.
Exactly.
That's actually a very interesting development.
Yeah. Does that mean that's a really good point, right? Like when you get something from Reddit, most other companies or most other websites will allow you to use it. Does that mean Reddit's kind of pushing other companies and other websites towards integrating Web3 based technologies to allow these kind of integrations to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Like someone has to take the initiative. Twitter did way back when they allowed you to use your NFT as a profile picture. Instagram followed suit almost immediately, where they let you now post all the NFTs you own straight to your profile. And it's not like posting any other image. It sort of comes with a bunch of extra information that tells people that this is a digital collectible. That's the term they use. But effectively, it's NFTs on a blockchain. So you got to have these big tech players like make the push, and then it sort of cascades everywhere. I mean, the coolest thing out there is Apple started opening its policies up to using NFTs in the Play Store, right? And that's one company you know for a fact is a dinosaur in terms of the pace of innovation. Like it's made all its innovation and now it sits high and mighty. They don't adopt that quickly. I mean, they still don't have USB-C for God's sake. So the fact that they're adopting NFTs before they adopt USB-C is pretty fucking cool, if you ask me.
Yeah, man, that's just so funny, man. And like on the topic of big players, if we look at non-big tech, there's been a big shift and big movement even from the consulting companies like Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, EY, Salesforce. I mean, Salesforce is big tech, but it's been it's been so interesting to see the big consulting companies moving into the space. Just about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, PwC actually made it one of their strategic priorities, global strategic priorities, to have a metaverse / digital assets team in every main office around the world. And that's led to some massive shifts because they're now running seminars all around the world. Most of these seminars are free. So if any of you are interested, definitely tag along to the PwC website, and you should be able to find. There should be communications coming out about this soon. But it's really cool to see the big tech companies moving into big consulting companies moving into the space. And even from a Salesforce standpoint, there was a really interesting report that came out about marketing in Web 2 as compared to marketing in Web 3. And what this report was covering was, in Web 2, marketing was more focused, or Web 2 as in the traditional internet, marketing was more focused on making a sale. It is, how do we get a person from point A to a sale, right? And a sale is the success defining factor effectively. But in Web 3, marketing has taken it's evolved. It's more focused on giving a stronger voice for customers and consumers, and also allowing consumers more of an opportunity to participate. Right now, what does that mean? What does giving a consumer a voice or giving more participation rights to consumers really mean? So, for example, let's take the example of a beauty company, a fashion company that makes products, and a large part of these products or these makeup products that come are animal tested, right? But by owning an NFT from this beauty company or this makeup company, you now have a say in how the testing should happen. So you now have a say, or you have voting power or rights, and a say in how that company should be testing its product. So, for example, let's say your ethics and your moral belief is animal testing should not happen. You now have a say using the NFT. So the NFT is almost giving you a voice, if not a form of ownership, and that changes the whole marketing perspective. It's more about engaging your customers in a way by which they have, in a way by which they have a say in where the company is going, rather than, hey, just make a sale and we're happy.
Yeah, and user behavior is defining a lot of work, even on the engineering side, right? Like, for instance, because NFTs are now beginning to get adopted in the real life, you're also seeing a shift in the features that are being built into NFTs. So back in the day, functionally, all it was an image, was a collectible, and that's where the standards sort of were focused around. In fact, even a lot of the proposals being made to improve the standard revolved around the artist. Like, it revolved around topics like, how do you allow for royalties? While you can set royalties on OpenSea or any other platform, the challenge is you can only set royalties on the platform by hand. Meaning, if someone buys your NFT from OpenSea and tries to sell it on Sorare or vice versa, there's no way for the artist to enforce any of the rules around the royalty, because royalty is not programmed into the smart contract. Royalty is a paradigm for the marketplace. So there were like a bunch of EIPs put out there which revolved around allowing the developer or the artist to set the royalty rate within the contract itself. And the idea was, any marketplace that's implementing sort of the role of a marketplace would use that figure as the basis to calculate royalty. So even if you moved your NFT from OpenSea to LooksRare, LooksRare knows how much to calculate in terms of the royalties and who to pay it out to. But a lot of the innovation was around that track. Now it's suddenly shifted, and most of the innovation is around the usability of NFTs. For instance, one very common use case for NFTs is to track subscriptions. So when you, for instance, buy an NFT, like for instance, okay, a really cool NFT, if you guys want to try it out, there's the University of Nicosia that's offering courses, and the ticket to which is an NFT that you can buy. We'll share the link soon. So all you got to do is go. It's free. You just got to pay the gas. It's maybe $10. Use your MetaMask to buy that NFT, And the moment you get it, you're able to now participate in their online MOOC courses. And they send you the course materials as airdrops, like so on and so forth, right? But this NFT becomes invalid post this course, and there's no way to enforce that. So you see a lot of standards now coming in that let you build subscription into the NFTs. So yeah, like the industry in itself is moving sort of in this direction of NFTs are cool and fun, but how do we make them more easy to adopt, and how do we retrofit them into use cases?
Yeah, man. I mean, both the EIPs you talked about, such interesting use cases, and that's the right direction that this space is going into. Um, and I think that also fits in really well to like another hot topic that I was reading about a few days ago. It was actually a report produced from Alchemy, and it was just speaking about like, sure, OpenSea's NFT activity has come down almost about 88%, in the
Uh,
last I think it was 5 months, if I'm not wrong, five
yeah,
or 6 months, which
yeah,
makes sense, right? But developer activity has gone up 48%.
yep,
And also the amount of NFTs that are being shipped this year is 1/3 of the NFTs that have been shipped in all the previous years since NFTs came into existence. So 33% of the total
that's
NFTs
crazy.
that exist um, on the
Bit
internet,
shipped this year.
yeah, 33% approximately got shipped this year. And that's just insane in terms of
Exactly.
developer activity.
Absolutely right. And these are leading indicators that tell you like the coolest NFT project hasn't yet been created. Like
Exactly.
is yet to come, right?
Yeah.
The tooling that existed for when BAYC came out, arguably BAYC is like the hottest collection out there today. The tooling was extremely primitive. Like what you
Yeah.
could build was extremely primitive. What's happened over these last couple of years is the platform itself has raised the bar so damn high and has
Mhm.
given you so much capabilities. It's crazy to even imagine what can and will come out of all the development that's happened in these few years. Just think about internet companies back in the 90s and think about Ubers and Tinders today, right? There's such a huge difference in how it's adopted and how it's being built. And a large part of that is the infrastructure underneath all of that. So that's changing, and that's a solid indicator for what's yet to come.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's exciting
yeah,
times ahead,
absolutely.
man. Super exciting times. Yeah.
Awesome. Think we've had a good chat. If there are no more questions, then I think we can wrap this up. Or if anyone else has any interesting thoughts they want to share or they want to start a discussion around, happy to do so.
Um, Anand, can you hear me? Or am I gone again?
Yeah.
Oh, you
No,
can
no,
hear
I
me.
can hear you.
Sorry, my computer froze for a second. Um, I'm just going to be adding a poll because we would love to, know if you have built NFTs in the past. We're just trying to understand, our audience, what kind of content we should be putting out, just so that it's more valuable, and just so that's more valuable and more useful for your development. So if you could just answer the poll, which I've just put through, you should be able to. It's just a yes or no. Will take you 5 seconds. If it takes you more than 5 seconds, then I'll send you a free NFT. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Akash has collected quite a few.
Oh, I don't know which ones you're talking about.
I'm going to dox you on today's webinar.
um, you should be able to access the poll on the bottom right. I don't know if the view you have is the same as the view I have as a host, but it should be at the bottom right under polls. You should be able to click yes or no for the question, have you built NFTs already? That's nice. So we've got 4 yeses. Cool. Anyone want to share what NFTs they've built? Srinivas is typing. Oh, you're making it for the hackathon. Oh, is this for the Lumos hackathon, Srinivas? Nice, man. That's awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing your submission. Do reach out to us if you need any help or if you have any questions or anything. We would love to hear from you. Cool. Okay. No worries. It's a good 40 minutes. Should we wrap it up here, Anil?
I think we can wrap it up for today.
Cool. Well, look, if you if there's any other questions that any of you have, you can reach out to us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever you prefer. I'll just paste my Twitter for now and Anil's as well. Just give me 1 second. So that's mine, and then Anil's one is this one. Just flick us a message on Twitter. Alternatively, if you prefer to email us, you can also email us on putting our email.
Yeah, it's Anil and Akash at revise.network. Now creative there.
Pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Awesome. It was super cool having you guys out here. We had a little bit of technical difficulties getting started. We're just getting used to this format of webinars. It'll keep getting more interesting and it'll keep getting more insightful, hopefully. And look forward to seeing you guys the next time around.
Cool. Thanks, Anil. Thanks, team.